Good morning. Our group is going to be presenting on the art of persuasion. The speakers in order of appearance are Aditya Pan, Katha Chanda, Bhavini Gupta, Soham Bhattacharya, Anvesha Mal, and Jahin Majumdar.
Good morning. I'm going to be speaking on the introduction to persuasion. Persuasion is used everywhere. It can be used in our everyday lives, whether it be presenting your ideas or in closing a deal. Advancement of media and communication has led to the free flow of people and ideas throughout business organizations, and this has led to people asking, why should I do something instead of what should I be doing? And the answer to this is effective persuasion. Now, most people have a negative idea about persuasion and they don't know what it is properly. They take a relatively straightforward process. Firstly, they take a position and they stand by it. Secondly, they give ideas and supporting facts. And thirdly, they enter the deal-making stage by working towards a close. So basically, in other words, they use logic, persistence, and personal enthusiasm to get others to buy their own ideas. This often backfires because it's missing one of the most fundamental things, compromise. Compromise is what is essentially required in persuading effectively. When the other opposition sees that you're willing to give up on your standpoint and are flexible and not dogmatic, they're willing to compromise themselves. So the effective way to persuade is to follow 4 steps. Firstly, you have to establish your own credibility. Secondly, you have to frame your goals in a way which identifies a common ground instead of what you want or what they want. And thirdly, you have to reinforce your position by giving proper facts and ideas and supporting arguments. And fourthly, you have to emotionally connect with your audience so that you can gain their trust. And that's it. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm going to be talking about the theories of persuasion. Conditioning theory. Conditioning plays a huge part in the concept of persuasion. It is more often about leading someone into taking certain actions of their own rather than giving direct commands. In advertisement, for example, this is done by attempting to connect a positive emotion to the brand or logo. The most important thing for the advertiser is to establish a connection with the consumer. This is often done by creating commercials that make people laugh, inserting uplifting images and music, and then ending the commercial with a brand or the product logo. The second theory is the attribution theory. Humans attempt to explain the actions of others through either dispositional attribution or situational attribution. Dispositional attribution, also referred to as internal attribution, attempts to point out to a person's traits, abilities, motives, or dispositions as a cause or explanation for their actions. For example, a citizen criticizing a president by saying the nation is lacking economic progress and health because the president is either lazy or lacking in economic intuition is utilizing a dispositional attribution. Situational attribution, also referred as external attribution, attempts to point out to the context around the person and the factors of his surroundings, particularly things that are completely out of his control. For example, a citizen claiming that the lack of economic progress is not the fault of the president, but rather the fact that he has inherited a poor economy from the previous president, is utilizing situational attribution. That brings us an end to the theories of persuasion. Thank you.
Today I'm going to talk about weapons of influence. We are inclined to go along with someone's suggestions if we think that person is a credible expert or authority. If we regard him or her as a trusted friend, that is likability. If we feel we owe them one, that is reciprocity. Or if doing so will be consistent with our beliefs or prior commitments, that is consistency. We are also inclined to make choices that we think are popular, that is consensus. And that will net us a scarce commodity, that is scarcity. We follow these general rules because they usually work to lead us to make the right choice. But because we often use them unthinkingly, they are commonly exploited by compliance professionals and con artists, many of them wearing nice business suits, religious robes, or reassuringly friendly smiles. A few tips to mastering persuasion. Give first. People are psychologically conditioned to return a favor. For example, if you buy the first round of drinks, they'll buy the second. So think of doing the initial good deed as an investment on your part. Be funny. If you want to be more persuasive, work on your sense of humor. People generally laugh at things when for one reason or another they identify with them. Introduce Consistency. One of the most powerful principles of persuasion rests on a person's need to remain consistent with his past actions. People are more likely to be persuaded to behave in certain ways if they have acted that way before. Have good timing. People are most persuadable immediately after thanking someone, and they are at their most persuasive after being thanked. So it's the perfect time to ask for a favor. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm going to talk about strategies for persuasion. Trick 1. Door in the face. In this aptly named technique, the persuader makes a ridiculously large request knowing the other person is sure to reject it. He then follows up with a favor that is more reasonable. The secret power of this approach is reciprocity, because we see the second request as a lesser burden and therefore a favor to us. We are likely to give in out of perceived obligation. Trick 2. Foot in the door. The person interested in doing the persuading hooks her target with a small request, then follows up with a larger one. For instance, if you ask a neighbor to take your dog for a walk on one occasion, he is more likely to concede when you later ask that this becomes a weekly favor. This approach succeeds because we prefer to keep a consistent view of ourselves. The favor doer says to himself, I'm the type of person who does favors for my neighbors, so it makes sense to fulfill this request too. Trick 3. Lowballing. Lowballing starts out with a small manageable request that the potential favor doer will agree to. Then, before the favor is executed, the persuader ups the ante and explains that the favor is actually larger than previously described. An example: ask a friend to bring a small dessert to a party, and when she agrees, you remember that you'd like her to bring a main dish as well. Her drive to stay consistent will prompt her to exceed that your request and bring a main dish. Thank you.
Today I will be talking about appeal to logic or reason. Recognize that your audience feel they hold a reasonable view already, but try to dissuade that view by showing them how much more reasonable your own position is. Provide evidence to support your ideas to suggest that they are reasonable and logical. No matter what appeal you make, it is critical to remember that there are at least two sides to every issue. If you take the attitude that your side is the only side, you may alienate your reader. Knowing others' perspectives on an issue and knowing which of their points are valid, even in the light of your point of view, will help build a bridge between you and your potentially hostile audience. While applying logic, there are a few things you should keep in mind. Do you have sufficient evidence? Does it come from a trustworthy source? Will your audience believe your evidence? Does your conclusion logically follow the claims you make? Now there are two ways to apply to logic, one being deduction and the other being induction. Deduction begins with a general principle or premise and draws a specific conclusion from it. For example, it is a known fact that people who smoke endanger their health. Now this we can take as a major premise. Now your father smokes. That is a minor premise. Therefore, the conclusion you can make is that your father is endangering his health. This is deduction. Induction supports a general conclusion by examining specific facts or cases. For example, if you wanted to argue that your father's health is declining, you could cite specific facts such as yellowing of teeth, bad breath, weight loss, loss of ability to exercise normally, shortness of breath, heavy coughing after physical exertion, and so on, which provide ample fact that his health is on a decline. Thank you.
Good morning. I shall be speaking on the emotional appeal to persuasion. An emotional appeal uses the manipulation of the emotions rather than valid logic to win an argument. Emotional appeal is logical fallacy, whereby a debater attempts to win an argument by trying to get an emotional reaction from the opponent and audience. Logical fallacy. A fallacy is clearly defined and in error in reasoning used to support or refute an argument, excluding simple unintended mistakes. Emotional appeal defined. Pathos represents an appeal to the audience's emotions by metaphor or storytelling, by a general passion in the delivery, by an overall emotion, by the sympathies of speech or writing as determined by the audience. The pathos of a speech is only ultimately determined by the audience. The purpose of an emotional appeal An emotional appeal is directed to sway to the listener's emotions and uses the manipulation of the recipient's emotions rather than valid logic to win an argument. An emotional appeal uses emotions as a basis of an argument, position without factual evidence that logically supports the major ideas endorsed by the presenter. In the emotional appeal, persuasive language is used to develop the foundation of an appeal to the emotion-based argument instead of facts. Therefore, the validity of the premises that establishes such an argument does not prove to be verifiable. Thank you. This brings us to the end of our digital presentation. Thank you for watching.